So I mean, you were kind of similar. So I mean, you had All Star, so you kind of got some type of platformer RPG kind of stuff. What was the genre that you really liked back in the old day?
Uh, there wasn't much of it, but it was Metroidvania. Like, I loved Castlevania and Metroid, even though I could never beat them when I was younger on the NES. And
Hmm.
then I would rent Super Metroid all the time from Blockbuster, and then my parents eventually bought it for me for Christmas, and I played that game religiously. Like, to this day, I can still remember most of the items and where to get them and stuff like that. Like, it's ingrained in me.
I remember playing Super Metroid for the Game Boy, and the thing that really killed me the most about Super Metroid was like I got stuck pretty easily. Like I felt like I was like, oh, I
Yeah,
shot everybody. I don't see any enemies. Where do I go? Like a lot of times I kind of just got stuck. Like maybe Dad did something wrong. I don't see anything popping up, and I just said, I mean, I guess whatever. I'll go on to the next game. Like I think Castlevania and all those games I really didn't really play too much when I was younger. I think for me it was really between mostly fighting games. I'll be honest. I think that's where I really got into playing and owning fighting games, and I think they were the games I probably owned the most out of
okay.
everything around that time. And then I would either rent or sometimes buy like a platformer. So like Donkey Kong and all that. I think it wasn't until like we started getting into like the later consoles this when like your world kind of jumps around a little bit more because
Yeah,
almost games back then everything kind of felt like it was they were trying to do the same thing if they weren't like tic-tac-toe, Galaga, and Pac-Man. That most of them were
some
kind
kind of
of
bundles.
yeah, like second generation. I felt like was kind of playing the same thing, but with some music. Like Mega Man, I did like Mega Man. I didn't beat it around the time, but I did like it. I thought it was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I love Mega Man X on the SNES. I could never get into Mega Man when I was little, like the original. But when X came out, for some reason that just clicked for me. I never owned it though, so I'd always have to rent it. So I would never beat it in the time I'd have to rent it.
You know what game was really hard, but I still loved it every time I played? The Spider-Man games for Super
Oh
NES.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
when you had to, oh god, those like it was so like beat 'em ups like were really fun because you could play with multiple people, but they were just sometimes downright hard and
Yeah.
solo in some cases. And it's like I could probably have a better time with it, but like I remember that game just being like sometimes ridiculous. Out in the later levels of stuff, and getting punched in the face wasn't really all that fun. So, but I remember playing it with my cousins and stuff a lot. God, was Rampage that old too?
Yeah, Rampage was
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
Um,
If anything, I know I beat that game. Me and family have beaten that game, so it wasn't as hard as Spider Man. But then like
no,
Rampage,
yeah,
you're just going over and destroying, and eating everything. It's a little bit easier concept.
yeah. One thing that I for some reason always remembered, and for some reason I always rented, was the side-scrolling freaking 7 Up game where you're the little red 7 Up dot.
Oh
Sunglasses.
God! Another game from Smiths. You never owned it, but you kept playing it. It was
Yeah,
hilarious. And oh God, that was actually pretty fun. Like, it was a weird title. Like you just saw it and you're like, I don't know what this is for, but I'm here for it. So you
yeah.
just tried it anyway. So it was nice. It was pretty fun. Uh,
And then
what
the
up?
one that I really wanted to get into, but I never owned it, so I would rent it. And then by the time I would get a chance to rent it again, my save file would end up being deleted. It was Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana. I remember that. I'm trying to remember. Is that the one? It's like the Mana games now, right? But it was
Yeah,
just like you had to play it through,
yeah.
and you started from zero every time or whatever.
You could save it and stuff like that, but since I never owned it, whenever I would rent it again, like they would either overwrite my save file or it would be deleted. And so I'd be like, well, I just have to start all over again. So I never got to beat it.
Weren't memory cards the best thing when they came out? Is like it's so because yeah, if you rented a game, like that's why I guess I play fighting games a lot because it really didn't matter. Like it's
Yeah.
just like if someone got all the characters or whatever they did at the time, it was a benefit for everybody because you could just jump in. You're just playing to fight each other, and that's about it. And generally, I really did like that. But I think everything else, if you didn't own it, you couldn't fully like do it unless you like. I mean, if you're good, you could do it in 5 days. But I mean, it's not impossible. It's just at that time, it's like, yeah, you always was starting from the very beginning. So some
Yeah.
games that were just like, party games like Mario Party, Mario Kart was a big one for Super NES that we
Yeah.
played. That's probably the only time that I really, really like racing games around the time was Mario Kart. That's kind of like the gateway drug for all that. And it lives to this day.
And then I was a huge Street Fighter 2 fan, and I would like, play it over and over by myself. And I remember playing it on the hardest difficulty. And to this day, I still have my same SNES with the original controller. It has bite marks where I bit the controller because I got so mad of getting my butt kicked by Bison.
You're not supposed to bite the controller when you get mad.
I couldn't throw it, and I had to do something to release my rage. So I just said, I'm just gonna bite it.
Just punch a wall like a normal kid.
No, my dad would have.
Ah!